Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, the Riddler. DC Classics. This is the neon green one with the question marks all over. There is another version of this guy where he's a darker green and no question marks all over. And that's going to be the question of the day. Which look do you prefer? Okay, so this guy, I'm not sure. I don't buy every McFarlane figure, and I don't remember reviewing one that uses this body, but this is as close to a blank body that we've seen from McFarlane Toys as it can be. There's almost no sculpted detail on this thing, so it's interesting to me that they made this. Maybe they're going to be using it going forward for other characters. Is it good enough for that? That's going to be the real question. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. Before we look at the figure, we'll take a quick look at my package. Standard McFarlane DC front, the side, the other side. There's not much to look at here, and we'll look at that when we look at the trading card. There we go. All right, this guy stands just about 7 1/8 inches tall, probably closer to 3/16. We'll just call it 18 centimeters, and here he is up against Darwin. Definitely a different scale. Okay, so like I said, blank body here. There are two tiny things that make this not exactly a blank body, but it's pretty close. And is it good? That's a good question. But let's just review it as a Riddler figure first. I do like the idea of having more of the classics rather than whatever McFarlane has been doing lately with pulling every obscure version of every character first. So that's a good thing. They've had a lot of trouble with sculpting and with anatomy and proportions and all that. Is this much improved? Not much improved over some of the figures. We still have the Speeding Bullets and the Asbat as I think the two best figures in the line, not counting the Azrael and Batman that were the, White Knight versions? The stylized things. But anyway, as far as classic looks go, this is pretty close to it. It still has a really narrow chest, unfortunately. Like really narrow. If you're going to use this for anybody other than Riddler, I think you would be kind of upset. It's good front to back though. They had some thickness where Hasbro doesn't do that, so that's good. Legs are decent, proportioning still a little weird. Muscles still aren't very well sculpted on this guy. I don't think this is a great blank. I said I was going to talk about it as Riddler, and I'm talking about it as a blank again. I don't think this is that great of a blank. It's okay. So anyway, let's get back to Riddler. The question marks are really nice. It's a good addition. It's clean. I'm not familiar enough with Riddler to know if the center question mark is supposed to be significantly different from the others. That looks weird to me. I've never studied his question mark pattern before. Riddler is okay to me, but he's not really my favorite Batman villain by a long shot. So, whatever. They are clean. There's none on the sides of his legs, which is kind of obvious once you try to pose him, because they are on the arms, and they're fairly well distributed on the chest, but they didn't put them actually everywhere. They did a decent enough job making it look like they did, but there are definite spots where they're missing, so be aware of that. The belt is painted nicely. The flesh tone on the neck, it's okay. It's not great. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but you can see some green poking through. For the face, I don't love the sculpt. The eyes are pretty wide and down sloping, so it looks kind of weird because he's smiling and kind of frowny looking at the same time. Not in love with that. I'm not a huge fan of the way they're doing the hot spots, like the blushing around the cheeks, the chin, and the forehead. It's okay, but the figures aren't painted enough to carry that. Same thing with Hasbro. When you put a really realistic looking head on a goofy looking body, it stands out. This guy has no shading anywhere, but he has hot spots on his face. So it just looks like a weird paint job to me. I do like the blue in the hair. That is something I would definitely approve of going forward more consistently, but you can't add a whole lot of shading, relatively speaking, in one tiny little spot and then none everywhere else. It stands out. Anyway, it's not the best looking thing in the world. It's passable, I guess. It's okay. It's mostly bare plastic with question marks stamped on it, so it's just okay. I'll give it a 7. It's fine. Alright, now as far as accessories go, this is a weird thing. He's got a whole bunch of hands. He comes with an open hand and a gripping/trigger finger hand on him in the package, and then you get a bunch of other options, which is really unusual for McFarlane, because usually you get none. So that's kind of cool. You get his question mark staff, which is ridiculously flimsy, but it is painted. It appears to be painted anyway. Yeah, it has to be. That's pretty cool. And then you get the DC display stand and the trading card, which is not a great one if you ask me, but it's okay. 7 out of 10 for accessories. I like all the hands. The staff is just okay. So that's all right. All right, now as far as articulation goes, ball pegs. That's a good thing for the neck. He can look up decent. Looks down all right. Leaning side to side, that's pretty good. Rotation, you should be able to pose the head however you want. That's all right. Shoulders on that ball peg get pretty good range. That's one of the better ones they've done. On their own, they get about horizontal with the ball peg a little bit higher, so that's good. Full rotation, of course. Bicep swivel is fine. I'm pretty sure this is a new sculpt. It's just weird to me that they didn't make it perfect. If you're going to make a whole new sculpt that you plan to be able to reuse, which they most definitely can with this, make it better. Why is his chest so narrow? It's weird. Alright, and then like tiny little arms with weird lumps in the articulation. Alright, so elbow joint is hideous, but has good range. Sculpt on the arms, definitely disappointing. Wrists have a ball hinge, sculpted ball hinge, so you have really good range. This is a floating piece, so it makes the gloves look really ugly, really gappy at the wrist, but it is a floating piece, so you can rotate it and kind of hide that and pull it forward if you want to. So that's good enough. I could zoom in a little bit so you can see that. With this being a floating piece, it does get gappy, but you can just squash it down, so that's all right. Makes me wonder, again, is this going to be a blank? We'll see. Leaning back, he does lean back nicely. That's using both joints right there, so he goes pretty far back. Going forward, we'll just use both. Almost no range going forward. Again, that's mind-boggling to me. To the side, it's pretty good. Then, of course, you're going to get your rotation, so that's fine. That's normal. Still don't understand why nobody can lean forward. All right, so the belt is... it's connected, but it's not all one piece. So that's one of the things that stands out, as maybe this might not be a blank, but since it's a separate piece, I'm thinking maybe it is. Is it glued on? It feels like it's glued on. Let me check. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's definitely a separate piece that's glued on, and I think keyed, but still, so that might indicate something. Then there's one other thing we'll get to. Hips go out to the side nicely, full on splits. Going forward, the crotch is just no good for that. They make the diaper so seamless, even though there's still a big seam, that you can't move the thighs. Trim away more of that plastic so you can do it. He can go back just a little bit. Kicks kind of get in the way. A little bit of thigh swivel, not much. Double jointed knee. Functional, but not great looking. His legs have a lot of curve to them also, but they're also disproportionate as hell. Way too long compared to this. This should be the same as this. That's a good rule of thumb. Your hip should line up with the bottom of your foot if you can bend the leg all the way around like this. So this should be longer, this should be shorter. But good range, at least. No boot swivel, but here's the other thing that makes me think this is a little bit weird. I don't know what's going on here exactly, unless this is reused. His boots are sculpted at the top, so he's got that. But there's also this. This outer calf. It's not a muscle, it's like an armor plate. I don't know why that's there. That is a hard edge. So it doesn't really fit on Riddler at all, and I don't know where that came from. What's going on there? Very, very weird to have that armor plate. Very strange. Alright, and then for the ankles, they are nice and seamless again, but they're heavily ratcheted, which is super annoying and almost impossible to get this guy to stand comfortably, but you do get the functionality of the ball hinge, so that's a good thing. Toe hinge is nice and far forward, well sculpted. That's exactly how you want to sculpt it and where you want to place it, but it's really pretty loose, so it's only okay. So articulation on this guy is going to get a 7. There's nothing impressive about it other than he can lean back nicely. Everything else is not particularly good. It's just good enough, which is weird if this is a new sculpt and they haven't used it before, but even then, it was a new sculpt then and the line's not that old, so there's really no excuse for things to not be as good as they could be, and this is certainly not that. So, before we give it a final rating, we'll do a quick cake rating. It's kind of good, I guess. They have it really coming out pretty far over here on the edges, which is okay because your butt connects down this way. The muscles do, but the way they sculpted it looks a little saggy, kind of like he fudged his shorts. So we're gonna just go 6. There's a little bit of something there, but I'm not sure what I'm seeing exactly. All right, final verdict on this guy. Is it a bad Riddler figure? No, it's fine, but being the Riddler doesn't really need to do much. Is it a good new sculpt or a good sculpt in general? It's okay. Articulation, okay. Accessories, okay, other than the extra hands, which is nice. But, it still leaves a lot to be desired. I thought this was going to be like a really good sculpt and I could just gush over how good the anatomy and everything is, but it's just not. It's okay. I'll give it a 7. McFarlane toys tend to balance out the good with the bad enough that they rarely get higher than a 7, unfortunately. So I think that's where I'm going to stick for this guy as well. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.